Hi everyone, this is Mr. Mintner, and I'm going to do a quick video on the parts of the cell. And what we have pictured here are plant. This is a plant cell right here, and this is an animal cell over here on the side. So basically, a lot of the things between the two cells are very similar. I'll go through the parts, and then I will talk about the differences between the two when we're done. Let's start with the nucleus, because we classify things on whether they have a nucleus or not. If they have a nucleus, like plant and animal cells do, we call them eukaryotes. If they do not, they look like this, and that's a bacterial cell. Prokaryotes are the other types of cell, prokaryotes, and they're all bacteria or archaea, which is kind of a special type of bacteria. What prokaryotes have is a nucleoid region. They don't even have a nucleus. They just have some DNA, circular DNA, and they have some free-floating ribosomes here that make proteins. That's it. Sometimes they have a cell wall, sometimes they don't, but they always have some DNA and some ribosomes. But what makes eukaryotes special is they have membrane-bound organelles, including a nucleus. So let's start with the nucleus. In the nucleus, we have one in both plant and animal cells. That's where all the DNA is. That's where all of the genetic information is. It's kind of the brains of the cell. It kind of is the boss, tells everything what to do. Also inside the nucleus is this area here. That is the nucleolus, and that is where all of the parts for a ribosome can come together, where they're made so that you can make ribosomes. Ribosomes make proteins. We find ribosomes free floating in the cell, but also, especially, on what's this right here, that's rough endoplasmic reticulum. What happens is proteins get made on the ribosomes. They go into the endoplasmic reticulum, which is a series of tunnels and pathways. In there, the protein folds and becomes a shape that it needs to be, so that it can be the kind of protein it needs, either in other organelles or in the cell membrane, or to be exported out of the cell. Also, we have endoplasmic reticulum that is smooth. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum is in both plant and animals. It makes lipids. Lipids are used in all kinds of things, including in the cell membrane, which we'll talk about a little bit. The other thing the smooth endoplasmic reticulum does is it detoxifies. It takes poisons and other things out of the cell that's not supposed to be there. Like an alcohol, it's bad for the cell, so they stick a hydroxyl group, or not necessarily hydroxyl. They make the alcohol more soluble to be taken out of the cell. The other parts here, let's take a look. We have this blue here. Those are the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the power plants. They take things that we eat, especially carbs, and have those converted into energy that the cell can use in the form of ATP, which we'll spend an entire week on later on. Um, we also have lysosomes, which are like the assassins. They break things down inside the cell that aren't supposed to be there or that have already been used, and they take those macromolecules and they recycle them so they're used other places in the cell. We have Golgi apparatus, which is here, that packages and sorts things so that they can get delivered and go where they're supposed to go. I kind of call it like the post office of the cell. Both plants and animals have those. Um, and we talked about the ribosomes. That's most of it. We also have a cell membrane on both. Cell membrane determines what enters and leaves the cell. And there are three protein types that we don't see here. There are channels, which allow things to come in and out of the cell that are too big to fit through the cell membrane. So it's like a special tunnel that allows things that are charged or too big to come through. They also have markers, which identify the cell as yours so that your immune system won't attack it. They also, in blood typing, you have a marker for type A and a marker for type B. You have both markers if you're type A, B, and so on. If you have type O blood, you don't have any markers, type O neg. Um, and then in plant cells, we also have something called the chloroplast, which is used to make sugars, to make carbohydrates through photosynthesis. We have an entire week we're going to spend on that as well. Also in plant cells, they have a very large vacuole, central vacuole where water is stored, and the more water, the more and the more that swells, the stiffer the plant can become, so that it can stand up straight. That's nice. When a cell is droopy, or when a plant is droopy, it doesn't mean that it's dead yet. It means that it's not got enough water. It's thirsty. It needs more water in its central vacuoles to spread out. Also, plant cells have a cell wall, which is rigid and helps hold its structure. Um, that's made of mostly cellulose, which you remember is a polysaccharide that we talked about back in when we did the macromolecules. So there's a tour of the cell and the different parts of the cell. I hope this helps. The difference between plant and animal cells. And, I mean, plants have a central vacuole, they have a cell wall, and they have chloroplast. Other than that, they're pretty close to each other. Animal cells have centrioles, which we'll talk about, that animal cells, or that plant cells don't have. They have centrioles, which are used in cell division. We'll talk more about that when we talk about how cells divide. So we have prokaryotes that have none of those things, and then we have eukaryotes that have a lot of similarities, but plant cells have slightly different, more things that the animal cell doesn't have. I hope this is helpful. Our test is on Thursday. Good luck. Study this. Go through your notes. Go through the book. And use those questions on Zondel. They're there to help you. I hope this helps, and have a good day.